We haven't done one of these in a long time. Let's do an urgent real-time stock markets forecast, big picture forecast leading up until November, December-ish of this year. Should I buy stocks? Seems like everyone that bought stocks a month or two ago, especially during the height of the coronavirus crash, just made double, triple their money. If you bought Hertz, rent-a-cars, which went bankrupt, you made a ton of money. If you bought Tesla, you made a ton of money. And so you know people in your office, or you know people at work, or even through social media that say, hey, I just made $2,000 today, $5,000 yesterday, or maybe $20,000 yesterday and $50,000 the day before. Should I buy these stocks right now? Short answer is at the moment of this video, at the very moment of this video, is a watch. It is not a buy, it is not a sell moment. Right now, I'm putting this video up right now because of the fact that it is a turning point, a fork in the road moment. If you have stocks that you bought 2-3 days ago and you experienced an 8% dump, which is what just happened, hold. Do not sell them right now. If you didn't buy and you're thinking about buying today because of that 8% dip, hold. Do not buy. So don't buy or sell right now, because this is the big picture. This is the timeline that you're going to need to know. And if this was 3 days ago, I would have told you to sell, which we did. We told everybody to dump everything 3 days ago. And we told everybody to buy Bitcoin, a couple weeks ago? A couple months ago as well. And then we just recently told everyone to sell all their Bitcoin 3 days ago, 4 days ago. We've been saying short, and then we've been saying we're shorting right now, but then wait a second. No, it looks like it's going to go up. Cancel your shorts and just wait and watch. So we've been playing real-time trades with Bitcoin and the stock market. And right now, it's a moment to just hold and watch. That's it. This could change literally in 24 hours. This is what you're watching for. A federal stimulus is what drove the stock prices up. Everyone knows that, right? If you understand the mechanics as to how that worked, how the Fed printing money made stocks go up, then you're going to understand whether or not that will continue, whether it's over, whether it might continue and yet stocks might still dump, even if the Fed prints more money. Here are the factors you need to know. When the Fed prints money, they don't just give money to corporations. There's a bunch of people on social media saying, hey, it's unfair, corporations got $50 trillion or $5 billion trillion. That's not how it works. The Fed doesn't just give, the Fed gave you, $2,000 or $3,000 if you're an American. Just about every single major country got a stimulus package, and you got literal hard cash sent to your bank account. That's not actually what happens if you're a corporation. Some, like for instance, not-for-profit corporations, organizations, like teachers' funds, teachers' pensions, firemen's pensions, can get real hard money. But corporations don't. Why? Because the Fed knows that if you give corporations money, they'll just, put it in their own pockets. They'll figure out what the Fed wants is for the economy to keep going in America and the world. And for the economy to keep going, you've got to keep building stuff. You've got to keep buying things at wholesale. You've got to keep paying employees, paying contractors. So money in, money out. You've got to keep employing people. You've got to keep paying subcontractors. And that makes the whole economy go around. It's an economy, right? It's an ecosystem. But the Fed knows that, hey, if they just give cash to corporations, the corporations are going to hoard it or just pay themselves bonuses like the Hertz executives did with all that money. Yep, the Hertz executives gave themselves, Hertz rent-a-car, millions of dollars in bonuses, and then said, hey, let's just declare bankruptcy right about now. That's fair. Close down shop. Since now we've got millions of dollars, we're done. Good job. That's what they did. That's what the Fed knows that corporations might do if they give corporations money. So what did the Fed do? The Fed decided to give corporations basically T-bills, treasury bills. What that means is that the U.S. Treasury says, here's a note, here's a promissory note saying, hey, we're going to pay all your vendors for you. Everyone you owe money to, we don't anymore. We took care of all that debt. We're going to pay them for you. So now the Fed's thinking is, okay, if Apple, if IBM, if Microsoft, if, I don't know, Oracle doesn't have to pay their contractors or subcontractors because, hey, we're the Fed, we're the US Treasury, we're going to pay everybody. We have excellent credit. You can just keep innovating. You can just forget about all the money you owe people. You can just go and hire more inventors, hire more designers, hire more employees, build more manufacturing facilities, and just pump shit out. That's what we want you to do, is make the economy go around. So the Fed decided, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. And what did the corporations decide to do? Knowing what the corporations did and how they reacted to the Fed taking over their debts will tell you whether or not you should buy their stock right about now or not. Okay? Now listen to this. What they did was they took all those, well, they didn't take anything. They just didn't have to pay back any of their bills. So now what ends up happening? They have all these billions of dollars left over in their war chest. All that money that they have left over from last year's profits, they look at that money and then they look at this year's sales. Now remember, corporations with their stocks that you're buying, or that you're thinking of buying, or that you already bought, have to report every quarter. They do quarterly revenues so that their price to earnings ratio can get figured out by the analysts. Quarterly, that means every 3 months, they look at how much sales they've had, how much revenues they've had, how many earnings they've had, which goes into the price to earnings ratio calculation. And they say, holy shit, we haven't earned anything last 3 months. But we don't have to pay our bills. What are you going to think if you're the CEO? What are you going to think if you're the CFO or some C-level guy like Jeff Bezos, who owns an umpteen thousands of numbers of shares of your company? Holy shit, by the time we have to report our numbers, well, sales were down 83%. You know what's going to happen to their stock price? It's just going to go, wow, it's going to crash every time they have to report per quarter. So what are they going to do? If they try and raise sales when nobody's allowed out, if they try and raise sales when no Chinese people, no European people are allowed to come into America, and everyone that's in America isn't allowed to go out shopping and isn't allowed to go do their Yankee ingenuity thing and build their own little popsicle stands and sell stuff, the economy's dead right now. It's on a standstill. What are they going to do? Well, the handwriting's on the wall. Guys like Jeff Bezos, who's worth billions of dollars, well, he owns Amazon, which is a delivery service, so let's put him out of the picture. Guys like Howard Schultz, guys like, just forgot the guy's name that was the CEO of Apple, the head designer, Jonathan Ive. Guys like that, they look at the situation and go, oh boy, no one's going to buy our apples. No one's going to come and order frappuccinos anymore. There's just no traffic coming in to buy our stuff. What are they going to do? They've already quit. They already quit. Why? If you quit your company, you can actually start selling shares. Think about that. If you're the CEO of your company, you can't really sell substantial enough shares without reporting it first. Hey, and having it reported. Do you see what's happening here? With the same thing happened with Bezos. Bezos is the CEO of his company. He hasn't stepped down. So what's the easiest way to start selling your shares? Well, step down, but he hasn't stepped down. So what do? Well, give half your shares away to someone who can sell them without reporting it to the SEC. Well, you can't just give half your shares to somebody legally without having the SEC say, hey, half these shares are now in the possession of somebody who can sell and depress the price of Amazon stock unless a court orders you to give away half your shares. Are you starting to see where I'm going with this? If a court orders that you get rid of half your shares and sell and liquidate half your shares before the whole coronavirus thing, then it's okay. Then you can sell half your shares and then you can sell more later and you can sell even more later. And because why would you want to sell your shares? Because they're not going up. How did he do that? He got a divorce. Perfect timing, isn't it? Just before the coronavirus thing hit, just before the Trump financial economy thing happened. So Bezos has 50% less shares. If you look at all the other CEOs that just recently quit or sold their shares or figured out some other way to sell shares without raising red flags with the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission in America, you know the direction of the money. They're leaving. They're leaving their own stocks. So why did stocks go up? Because since all these CEOs and CXOs and CFOs are selling their shares, it depresses the price of their net worth. It depresses the price of their stock, so they're worth less. If they're worth less, they can't get as many mortgages to or loans to pay for their new G4 jets or their new mansions. That's literally how it works. Sir, you're not worth $57 million anymore. You're going to have to sell 3 of your homes. That's exactly what happens to the banks. So what do? They don't want to sell their 3 homes, or they want more time to sell their 3 homes, so they have to raise their net worth back up. So what do? Hey, Mr. CFO Chad, you know how we don't have to pay our bills this month because the U.S. government said they would pay all our bills for us? How much money do we have left? We have all this much money left. What do you think we should do with all that money? How about we buy our own stocks? That's exactly what they did. They're selling their personal stocks, depressing the price of the shares of their company, and then using all that extra war chest money to buy their own stocks and raising their prices back up so that they can sell more of their stocks. You're going to see more and more CEOs either leave so that they can sell their shares, or get more divorces so that their wives can sell, their ex-wives can sell their shares for them. And then after they leave in 2 or 3 years, they can get remarried to their ex, or I don't know, have conjugal visit. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, how Jeff is going to live with his ex-wife or what. And I'm not saying that's exactly why he did it, but that's what the Chinese do. That's what all the billionaires do. That's what everybody that has money in public positions do. They just get divorced so that they can sell company shares without breaking law and without depressing the price of their stock. That's how they do it. So back to you. Should I buy stocks right now? All the CEOs, CXOs, CFOs, everybody, all the board of directors of major corporations, they're selling their stocks. They're just selling their stocks. But the stock prices are still, they were up until yesterday before the whole 9% dump on the S&P 500. They were doing fine. They kept going up. They can only go up as long as the quarterly reports haven't been published yet. And when the quarterly reports go out saying we've got an 83% depression in our revenues, our earnings, there's not much that can stop that. There's not much that can stop the depression of the price of every share, which you buy. You put in $10,000 of your own money, and it's going to be worth $4,000 in a day, literally in a day. Okay, so that's happening. Number 2, even if their stock price goes up before they have to release their revenues, these guys are not producing revenues like Carnival Cruise Lines, like hotel chains, like Hertz Rent-A-Cars. They're not producing revenues, and when they don't produce revenues, what are the shareholders going to do? Their stock prices are going to go lower and lower and lower, and eventually they're going to have to pay their bills, and Uncle Sam's paycheck's going to stop. And that's happening really quick, so what do they have to do? They have to declare bankruptcy. What happens when they declare bankruptcy? Well, they have to fire everybody. That's exactly what Hertz did. Hertz just fired everybody, declared bankruptcy, and then the courts, guess what the courts do? Yeah, your share prices went up, but you declared bankruptcy. All right, you're kicked off the exchange. You can't be a publicly traded stock anymore. You're delisted. So you spent $10,000 on Carnival Cruise Lines or some hotel chain or Hertz Rent-A-Car, and now it gets delisted, and whatever that last delisting liquidation price is, now your $10,000 is only worth about $800. You've lost $9,200. Is what happens when a company gets delisted off of NASDAQ or the Dow Jones average. So that's why you want to just kind of stop and wait, stop and watch, stop and. You're painting a super bleak picture, like everything's going to crash. Why would I stop and watch? Why wouldn't I just sell everything? Because of November. November is when the Trump re-election campaign is going to happen. And before Trump's re-election, there's going to be one more nice, huge pump. Whether that huge pump is going to start tomorrow, today, or I don't know, that's in November, so could start in September, could start in October. Who knows? We're not sure yet. We will tell you. Myself, my team will look at the markets, we'll look at the political spheres, we'll look at the economy, we'll look at coronavirus, we'll look at everything, and give you our forecast as to when we think that you'll see that big pump that all your bragging friends on Instagram and your office are making about having made $70,000 in the last 2 weeks will happen again. We're not sure if it's going to be now yet. So that's why you want to subscribe to this YouTube channel and just kind of understand the big picture. If this doesn't make sense to you, I'll just summarize by saying this. The US government is giving major corporations money to not pay their bills. What they're doing with all their extra leftover money that they don't have to use to pay their bills is buying their shares. Buying shares of their own company so that they can. So they're buying shares of their own company with their own company money. And then with their own personal stocks, they're selling those same shares. So company buys stocks, pushing price up. Personal stocks get sold, pushing price back down. And this is happening until this can't happen anymore, until they run out of money or until they have to report quarterly revenue saying, hey, our sales are down 89%, 92%. Just so you know, Starbucks is closing stores all over the world. And they're building more small, tiny micro cafes, walk-in and drive-through cafes. I'm not kidding you. Look it up. Cruise lines, they've stopped advertising. Sure, their stocks bounced a little bit before this big dump last night, but they're not advertising anymore. They're not taking out ads. So you think they're going to do well? You think their stock's going to do well, especially after they post revenues for the quarter? No. But there will be one massive pump just before Trump's re-election. When will that be? What will cause it? How will you know what stocks will jump up the most? Subscribe to this channel. We'll tell you. I'll give you a couple hints. Some of them have to do with suppliers for Tesla. Tesla doesn't make all their parts. Tesla just assembles everything and makes some key expensive components. The rest of and it's the same with most automobile manufacturers. 70 to 80% of a car comes from subcontractors or other corporations in other countries, like China, that they pay to have it shipped over, like car chairs, seats, like all those little buttons and radios. You think Tesla makes their own auto radio, car radio, and their own leather? Tesla doesn't have a cow factory. Tesla doesn't have an Alcantara factory. So that's a hint, and there's a lot more of that for you as to what stocks will go double, maybe even triple, quadruple their current value. Well, current value is wrong because we might still actually dump a lot. So your timing is going to be key. And to get that precise timing as to know when to buy and sell these babies, go ahead and give us a subscribe on their YouTube.